You know where you live? You don't know where you live? No?
Last time he was out here about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He was hungry, and cops came and took him back inside the house.
Avondale officers checked on Crystal Wilson's 5 adoptive kids for possible child abuse.
This is a child that disappeared in the middle of the night.
Wilson let the officers in the house. 2 boys harnessed to their beds. Wilson explained it was for their safety.
Jesse's remains were discovered on the side of the road.
He was with her.
And that's how we found out.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that we've made an arrest.
She killed my grandson, and I know she did. He might have ran away, but he always went home.
You're listening to True Crime Arizona, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
It's been a long road, and we're just happy that it's coming to an end.
The room was full of detectives, media members, and a grandmother who's been fighting for years to get to this moment.
Me and my family just want to thank everyone for working the case. I know it took a long time, but there's things that has to be done. We never gave up hope that justice was going to be served.
Cynthia Lauderdale was crushed when her biological grandson, 10-year-old Jesse Wilson, went missing in 2016. He and his twin sister and older brother had been adopted out when they were young, but his biological parents and grandparents didn't hesitate to get involved when they saw Jesse's picture on the news.
It's been 6 years since Jesse was missing. So in the meantime, his mom has passed away in February.
That was Cynthia's daughter, Jesse's biological mom. But she remembered something powerful she shared with the room.
But there was one thing that she said before she did pass away, is that justice will be served, Mom. It's just a matter of time.
Her daughter's final words would come true in December of 2022.
First, we're going to hear from Chief Larry Hall.
Today, I'm pleased to announce that we've made an arrest in this case.
July 18th, 2016.
Buckeye Police, how can I help you?
My son has either climbed out the window, which he's done before, or he has he has gone out the back door.
That's Crystal Wilson on the phone. She was Jesse Wilson's adoptive mother.
How old is he?
He's 10. The officer that dealt with him before found him on the corner house.
Crystal told police this had happened before, and Buckeye Police had record of it. Not long before this, Buckeye Police had found Jesse at a neighbor's home in the middle of the night.
The neighbor called us about 4:30 in the morning, I believe, and a neighbor called us. We went out there, we met with Jesse. He gave us his name. We were able to do some data checks, and we found out where he lived right down the road, so we took him back home.
Officers were wearing their body cameras when they found him. You can hear in this audio officers talking to Jesse and Crystal yelling in the background.
All right, Jesse, come on.
Now, first of all, you know better. Don't.
All right, good luck to you guys.
Officers said Jesse was scared and quiet that night, but did say something kind of strange to the police.
I usually go to school in the middle of the night.
They weren't sure what he meant by that. Did Jesse mean he walked to school in the middle of the night by himself? Or was he just confused? They returned him back home, a home next door to neighbor Oscar Torres. He also remembered when Jesse left that first time, but mentioned something else.
Last time he was out here about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He jumped out the window and he didn't know where he lived at. He was hungry. Neighbors right here fed him, and cops came and took him back inside the house.
Jesse and his twin sister and older brother were removed from their biological parents when they were young due to stability issues. Jesse and his sister hadn't even turned 1 yet. Both grandparents wanted the children, but both were denied for different reasons. Carolyn Lansbury, Jesse's biological grandmother on his dad's side, told me she had a DCS case open on her from years ago, and that's why the state wouldn't give her the kids. Cynthia Lauderdale, on Jesse's biological mom's side, was also told no.
The last thing the judge said in her chambers was that my credit was not good enough, and that's why I couldn't have custody of the children.
The children ended up all together under the care of Crystal Wilson, who had a number of foster and adopted kids over the years. Neighbor Oscar Torres wasn't the first to mention there might be a malnutrition problem with the children in Wilson's house. This was brought up with another Valley Police Department 5 years prior.
This police report shows Avondale officers checked on Crystal Wilson's 5 adoptive kids for possible child abuse back in 2011. A family member was worried that the kids were malnourished and starving. According to the report, Wilson let the officers in the house. They saw all 5 kids and found 2 boys harnessed to their beds. Wilson explained it was for their safety because they get out in the middle of the night. The officers said they did not see any physical signs of abuse and found the house well-maintained and well-stocked with food.
So there seemed to be a pattern of suspicion around what was going on inside Crystal Wilson's house.
Do you know where you live? You don't know where you live? No? Has he said anything or no?
A little bit, a little bit. He was hungry.
But time and time again, authorities deemed the environment safe for the children. But this time in July, it seemed nobody had any idea where Jesse was. Not Crystal, not neighbors, and not police.
This is a child that disappeared in the middle of the night.
Immediately, an all-out search began to find Jesse in the Buckeye Desert, including scent-sniffing dogs and drones, and a complete canvas of any place nearby.
We're still in the process of going through all the surveillance video. That was the first thing we did on Monday morning. We went to all the businesses and had them start pulling the video for us.
Dozens of volunteers who didn't even know the boy jumped in to help.
I got 3 kids of my own, and, the thought of them being missing for a day or two would break my heart.
I have grandkids his age, and I just felt bad because he's been out there for a couple of days now, all alone, and I wanted to come out here and help.
Even the local Domino's Pizza got involved, attaching Jesse's missing flyer to every pizza delivery box and takeout order.
We send out hundreds of pizzas a day. We have a way to get the information out to people. Maybe if they're not, watching the news, they don't see the newspaper. We can put these on our boxes and it gets out to them.
Jesse went to the Bradley Academy in Goodyear. Administrators turned that into somewhat of a search headquarters and command center to coordinate all the volunteer efforts. And they put Jesse's bright yellow school desk and chair out front with his name on it for awareness.
Jesse is a very vibrant, active child, great imagination. Just a pleasure to have all the kids like him.
Crystal Wilson started talking to the media. She began by speaking directly to Jesse.
This is your mommy. No one is mad at you. Your sister and your brother loves you so much. They love you so much. Your school is so supportive. You really would love all the support that they have given.
As the days went on with no sightings of the little boy, Crystal stayed in the media spotlight, keeping her son's disappearance top of mind in the community, expressing gratitude to those helping her family.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out, supporting and helping us to find Jesse. I just want to let everybody know I appreciate every bit, from the smallest child to the oldest adult.
When it comes to a missing persons case, especially a child, authorities will always look at family first. Crystal Wilson was publicly speaking to TV news cameras, but that didn't mean Buckeye police weren't looking into her possible involvement in her son's disappearance too. That next-door neighbor, Oscar Torres, saw police at her house for hours.
All I know is that they were here yesterday from about 8 o'clock till they didn't leave until about 5 in the morning.
Crystal was never named a suspect, but during the investigation, officials did find she skipped out on a court hearing in 2016 regarding her parental rights of Jesse and the 2 other kids. But that was it. Police had nothing else to go off of, and the case went cold for years.
It was just quiet.
How frustrating was that?
Frustrating a lot.
That's Jesse Machado, Jesse Wilson's biological father, the person the young boy was named after. While Jesse wasn't in his custody, he followed the case closely, recognizing his son's face immediately on the news when he went missing, despite not having seen him for nearly a decade.
Through the news, I found out everything was going on.
And then the news about his son stopped. There were just no new leads, no new information, and no way to move the case forward. Until March of 2018, Jesse Machado gets a call from police.
They got a hold of me, and then they asked me to form my DNA.
A developer was building homes on a vacant piece of desert land in Buckeye, off State Route 85. The land had previously been a soccer field, then a football field, but had sat abandoned for years until new homes started being built in the area. Workers came across something horrible. They had found remains in the Buckeye Desert off State Route 85. They were so decomposed, there was no possibility of making an identification right away. Police thought maybe they belonged to 10-year-old Jesse Wilson. Machado's mother, Carolyn Lansbury, was with him when police called him for his DNA.
It was hard. It was really hard. I was like, Jesse, well, you need to go do this. You need to find out for sure if it's him.
And that's how we found out.
So it was your DNA that connected those dots.
Mm-hmm.
Machado's DNA was a match. That was Jesse Wilson, a heartbreaking discovery for all of his biological relatives who had all tried to get custody of him years prior.
I was shocked. I didn't know what to do, did something better for him in life, but I couldn't. I still can't process it still, so.
All of us cried. It just killed us all. I was just like telling my son one day, he's gonna walk down the road and he's gonna say, hey, Dad. Well, we eventually didn't get that.
I'm very angry with the Child Protective Service for placing them in the wrong household instead of placing them with the family that loves them.
Jesse Machado and the boy's biological mother saw each other at a candlelight vigil at Jesse's school for the first time in years, there to honor their son together, one they did not get a chance to raise together. Jesse's biological mom had simple words that night.
I want justice for my son. I want justice for him.
While Crystal Wilson wasn't charged with anything, Jesse's siblings were taken from her and put with another family, as Jesse's case was now a homicide investigation. Then, Crystal Wilson, for all intents and purposes, went MIA. She moved to Georgia shortly after Jesse's remains were found and wouldn't talk to investigators at all. In the court of public opinion, the community felt Jesse's death was at her hands. But Jesse's remains were so decayed by the time they were found, officials couldn't come to a conclusion on cause of death. For the second time, the case went cold.
All right, good morning. Jesse Wilson was a 10-year-old.
Early in the morning on December 13th, 2022, more than 4 years after Jesse's body had been found, an email went out to all the Phoenix newsrooms. It was from Buckeye Police and said, "Good morning. Please see below. The Buckeye Police Department will hold a news conference this morning to announce a significant update in the Jesse Wilson case. Credentialed media members are invited to this event at 10:30 a.m. at Buckeye City Hall." There was an immediate buzz among reporters. I mean, this had been a huge case for years. It felt like this could only mean one thing: Somebody had been arrested. Buckeye Police Chief Larry Hall began the press conference.
Okay. Jesse Wilson was a 10-year-old boy who deserved the best in life. He deserved the love and care every child needs to thrive. In July of 2016, Jesse's adoptive mother reported to us that Jesse had run away from home in the middle of the night by slipping out a second-story bedroom window. In the days and weeks that followed, residents from Buckeye and all over the valley put their heart and soul into helping us search and try to find Jesse and bringing him back home. In 2018, sadly, Jesse's remains were discovered on the side of the road near Broadway and SR 85, State Route 85. This was an incredibly challenging and emotional case that had a big impact on our entire community, as well as our police department. Buckeye Police Department never gave up on Jesse. In 2020, a new investigator was assigned to re-examine the facts of the case, gather additional information, and conduct additional follow-up. We also ramped up our efforts in working closely with the FBI and the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And together we explored new angles on this case. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we've made an arrest in this case. Jesse's adoptive mother, Crystal Wilson, is now in custody in connection to his death. Last week, a grand jury indicted her on one count of abandoning or concealing a body. With the help from the FBI Safe Streets Task Force and the Gainesville, Georgia Police Departments, Buckeye police detectives arrested Crystal yesterday afternoon at her home in Gainesville, Georgia. She'll be transported or extradited here to Maricopa County for prosecution.
6 years after Jesse Wilson first went missing, after Crystal Wilson pleaded to the community to help find her son, she was now in handcuffs. Cynthia Lauderdale was at the press conference.
I did have my suspicions from the beginning, just from, what people were basically saying, and people that knew her, I talked to them, and, they were telling me things. So, yeah, I had my suspicions. And as far as, keep going, I just kept my mind busy, kept working, and but every day, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think about it. We're just happy that it's finally, come to the end to where the person is going to be liable and will be held accountable for the things that she did.
There was something that immediately caught all of our attention as journalists. This was not a murder charge. And while abandonment or concealing a body is a felony, it doesn't hold nearly as high of a possible sentence if convicted as a homicide charge would hold. Reporters asked Chief Hall why there was no homicide charge.
Absolutely. First of all, there were a lot of leads. We had to follow all of them. We just can't, as investigators, we can't, hone in on one theory. We had to look at a lot of them. And it took time to eliminate a lot of those theories. And also during the investigation, we had to request medical records because we were looking for, obviously charges of homicide. And as we went through the case, we exhausted all leads, and this is what we came up with. It took quite a bit of time. Some of the physical evidence that was needed for that charging was the actual body recovery itself. Now, we unfortunately found Jesse a couple of years later, and there was no information provided in the recovery of him that would support additional charges. So we worked the case through the county attorney's office, and this was the best, most fitting charge at this time. Crystal has never given us a statement. Well, she gave us conflicting statements, but there was never an admission on exactly what happened. She knows what happened. She's not telling us. The onus is on her. And we didn't locate any murder weapon, anything along those lines. In my mind, I think it might have been neglect that led to this, to his passing.
That all begged the question. If they didn't feel they had a strong enough case to definitively link her to murder, how did they link her to the crime at all?
We collected DNA from her Jeep, statements made by Crystal, and some technology and visual evidence that puts her in the area where the remains were recovered. So that's what we have.
He also mentioned something else about possible neglect from the beginning of the investigation that could have played a part in Jesse's death, especially in the middle of an Arizona summer.
There were some factors at the very beginning of the investigation. There was some issues at the house related to air conditioning being out, and there's just a few factors in my mind that I would lead to it. But again, I wasn't the lead investigator on it, so my thoughts are a little more broader than theirs. And the lead investigator would be here, but he's on his way back from Georgia right now. She was taken into custody and without any issues, but she refused to speak with us about the case.
While the arrest was certainly a relief to Jesse's biological family, his grandma, Carolyn Lansbury, brought up the fact police had been called to Crystal's home before about Jesse, who had been looking for food when he ran away, according to neighbors.
Why wasn't the state doing anything? They seen what was going on. They didn't do anything. They did not protect this child.
Chief Hall was specifically asked about this at the press conference.
Based upon that incident alone, there was nothing to indicate that he needed to be removed from the house. If there was, we would have contacted DCS or taken steps with DCS to have him removed. But there was nothing on that initial call to indicate abuse, neglect, or anything along those lines that time we went out there.
The reality is, had Jesse been removed from Crystal's custody at that time, he would likely be alive today with his twin sister, who is now 18 years old, and his older brother. Cynthia still has contact with Jesse's brother.
I do continue to have visits with, one of them. Yeah, Darian, Jaden. So he'll be 18 next April.
Jesse's dad and other grandma showed me a picture of his siblings from his mom's funeral in February of this year. They looked healthy, happy, and well. That's all their family could hope for at this point. But even with the relief of an arrest, nobody was perfectly satisfied. Jesse Machado says this is the first hurdle.
It's a relief, but the justice is not served yet. She's not sentenced yet.
Carolyn Lansbury feels this isn't far enough.
So I want a murder charge on her. That was my grandson. She killed my grandson, and I know she did. Because he was with her. Nobody else. He might have ran away, but he always went home.
Cynthia Lauderdale is hopeful the investigation gets there.
It's very hard, and I believe that these charges that we have right now, that's just the beginning stages. So as it goes along, I believe that they'll find her.
She didn't finish her sentence, somewhat lost in emotion, but she was going to finish that thought, saying she believes they will find Crystal Wilson guilty of murder at some point.
Why would you hurt a child? And he didn't deserve what was done to him. So you need to be held accountable for his death, and you need to speak up and let them know what happened.
It's hard enough to put children up for adoption. Jesse Machado wanted to care for his son.
He didn't deserve that. He could have had a better life.
That pain and guilt is something his mother, Carolyn, has tried to help him through.
And I'm there for him no matter what. Him and me and his wife will be there for him. And hopefully get this taken care of. Not let another child to get hurt like this again. It tears us up inside, It takes a part of us that you would never want anybody to go through.
I could visibly see the hurt Jesse Machado was feeling as he sat across from me, processing all of this. The care he will always have for his son was palpable.
What would you want him to know from you?
That I love him.
And while Jesse's biological parents had their struggles, being able to love their children more than anything wasn't one of them. Jesse's biological mom passed away this year, but his father is remarried and has been for a while. His wife is a big support system for him. As journalists, we hear stories about foster care gone wrong more than we want to. Every child deserves a fighting chance at life, a life full of love, security, and safety. Jesse's grandma Carolyn says that's exactly what went wrong here, and that will weigh on them as long as they live.
He would have been better off with his dad and his wife, and they would have had a wonderful life with their stepmom and their daddy.
And they just didn't get that chance.
He never got the chance.
True Crime Arizona, the podcast, is hosted by me, Brianna Whitney, and produced by Sergio Hernandez. It's a production of Arizona's Family, 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is True Crime Arizona, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.